Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I am joined by a fantastic UK-based wedding filmmaker, Aaron Kenny from AK Films.
Distinguished guests, friends, family, and Callum. We made it.
I really appreciate you coming on the channel. I know we've been talking about it for a little while, so thanks for your time, mate. Welcome to the channel, Aaron Kenny. AK Film. It is AK Films, isn't it?
AK Films. You should have
Yeah.
you should have prepped this beforehand, done your research.
Well, I've got your website up next. Sure.
Nice,
Me and
nice.
Aaron have known each other for a few years, and a lot of people, if you're watching in the UK, will probably know him as you're one of the guys that runs the UK Facebook group, and
Yeah, I think I was
everyone
just
knows Aaron, and like your work speaks his work speaks for itself. But if you've not seen it, go check him out. Links are below. But most of the UK guys will know who you are. You must feel pretty famous these days.
I think I was just so vocal in that group. I spent so much time on Facebook that John Boy was like, "Do you want to just be an admin because you spend more time in here than I do?" So
Yeah.
yeah.
If we let you join, will you shut up? So firstly, Aaron, I guess obviously I've introduced you. You are like 100% a wedding filmmaker. I'm assuming I'm right in saying that. But
Hmm.
if you could just take us back to like when you got started, how you got started, your background, and how you got into wedding videography.
That's a lot of questions in one. Okay.
What was the first one?
Um,
When
Back
and
to where I
how did?
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was at uni studying law and French. Um, I had no interest in making videos or photography, anything like that. And as part of my degree, I had to go to France for a year. I say had to rather than like got to, because I went to a really rubbish part of France. It was really depressing. We won't get into that. Um, so keep it light, keep it happy. Yeah, so I went to France and did a bit of traveling around France, and I made a YouTube channel, started blogging, and I was just really enjoying making these videos. And at the
Oh,
same
okay.
time,
Yeah.
I was applying for these legal jobs, and I was like, it was like, why do you want to work for us? And I was like, I don't really. Um, and yeah, just really enjoying the editing. And then my girlfriend Jess sent me a wedding video by, I think it was Penn Weddings. You know Penn
I remember.
Weddings?
Yeah, I've heard of those guys. I remember them.
Yeah. And I watched it, and I was very naively like, I could do better than that. And I definitely couldn't. Definitely couldn't. Um, but yeah, that's where it all started.
When was this? Like in relation to
So
today?
that was 2016.
7 years. Oh yeah, well, I was 16 as well. Yeah, 7 years
Mm,
ago. Nice.
yeah.
And now you are full time doing how many? Like, what's a year look like for you?
Yeah, so I went full time straight away. Basically, I did my last year of uni, and then I came out of uni and just went straight into this, and
Yeah.
had had no overheads or anything. Just had rent to pay, so it
Yeah,
was.
and I think me and you were in a similar position because we're like similar age, and it was the same for me.
Mm,
I was still living at home at my parents and could just go for it full time, like overnight, without having to be like, oh, when do I make the jump? Because I've got to
yeah,
support my
yeah,
kids and I've got a job. Whereas, like, I suppose it's nice to be in that position where you can just go, I'm just going to give this a go. You know,
yeah. I think it must be hard for people
low risk. Yeah.
when they've got a full time job and they've got that salary already, and they're trying to, yeah, they have
Replace
to
it.
wait till they can match that salary,
Yeah,
and they've got a
exactly. Yeah.
mortgage and kids to support and whatever. But
So what do you do? Like how many do you do a year, or has that changed over the years?
so since year one, I've just kind of, the number that I do every year has just kept going down. So I think my first year I did 26, then it was like 24, and the goal for me has always been 15. Like if I can hit the VAT threshold at 15 weddings, that's the goal.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
and last year was supposed to be that year, but then because of COVID postponements, it didn't happen. Um, so then it was going to be this year, but I now reckon I end up with like 17.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I'm doing the quick maths here. Like, that's a decent bank per wedding still. It's
I know
very
you
good.
like the numbers chat, so I knew as soon
I,
as I said that
yeah,
you'd be on
I
that.
know. Well, me and Aaron for everyone, me and Aaron for everyone watching. A few years ago now in Cornwall, we went to Rise um Retreat, which was a workshop down in Cornwall run by Leanne Perrins, and we both went to that and we shared a cottage, um, in separate beds,
Shared a
and
bedroom.
yeah, shared a bedroom but in twin beds, and we were discussing. I think at the time were we both around about the same price. I want to say like 2.5K maybe. Discussing how
I
to
think we were
go.
at like 1800 then, and we were talking about hitting 2.5,
Okay, you're right. Yeah, I
and
know it was
whether that was
around
the
about.
ceiling.
Yeah, and I remember this chat of like, do you think we could ever get to the 3 grands, the 4 grands, like, or is that impossible?
Mm.
Um, and then ever since then, it's like every time you've booked, like, I remember you messaging me out one day, like, I've just booked my first 4K wedding, and it's like, and it's like it's always seemed like, I don't know if you've felt this, but just in my own head, I've been like racing with you for the last ever since we had that night, sat up
Well,
in bed chatting.
it's always felt like that to me, but you like I always try and goad you into chomping, like throw that bait out there, and you're always just
Yeah,
like, oh, well done, mate. You never like, oh, that's annoying.
yeah.
You never like
Whereas
give me any satisfaction.
secretly I'm like smashing mugs off my kitchen floor. I'm like, damn it. Um, no, because I'm happy for you. And it's you, that
Excellent.
this is an interesting chat for me because um, I feel like we're similar in a lot of ways, but like you want to do 15 weddings, whereas I always want to continue to do like 40, but still
Mm.
charge the kind of same amounts and just go stupidly over like, and everyone's like, no, you can't, that's the wrong way to think about it. But I don't know, yeah, like I quite like doing a lot, and so I'm not doing the maths of not I'm not booking those kind of numbers per wedding, but I don't need to because I do more and I'm happy doing more.
Mm.
So it's interesting that you've chosen to go down that route and you want to do 15, but you still want to earn that much. Whereas I still quite like doing like 30 plus. I don't know, I'd
Mm.
feel a bit bored if I was. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
See,
Um,
I just physically couldn't do that number because the edit just takes me
because
so
of the
long.
editing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is something that I want to talk to again because one thing that if there's anything that stands out with you versus anyone else in the UK that I know, it's your attention to detail in the editing. And obviously I know this because you're very vocal about it in like your Instagram stories and you're always sharing stuff. So we'll get onto that. But firstly, I know you were based in London,
Hmm.
and you spent a lot of time, like, kind of, I guess, building your business there, doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're now in Dorset, as we spoke about before. But um, did you feel like London, being in London, made a difference in terms of the kind of quality of bookings? Because you are kind of you do get a lot of Londony sort of
Mm.
weddings and
Yeah.
clients and stuff, don't you? Um, which for me is like, I'd love to get more because they are typically nice weddings compared to like being from Blackpool.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like that made a difference? Did you like doing the city weddings or like,
Yeah. I wouldn't want every wedding to be the city centre wedding, but I do enjoy them. Like I had one on Saturday, and it was like it was three different venues, so it was a lot of logistics, but I feel like the aesthetic that you get from those weddings is often very nice. And as you say, they tend to
yeah?
have the budget as well. Um, and yeah, so again, there's a couple of questions in there. Yeah, I think
Sorry, I
it did
waffle. Yeah,
help. I think based in London did help um, to kind of appeal to London couples more easily. But I always I'm always hesitant to just accept that premise that when people are like, oh, I couldn't charge that because of where I live.
Hmm.
Because I think you look at like Richard Lang, look at Chris Buckley, like people who are not London based and still they travel for weddings, but they still get
Yeah.
the big budget weddings. So I think it's possible. Maybe it is just a little more difficult.
Yeah. So yeah, there. I mean, I'm saying like there is obviously you get more better weddings in London. Well, not, when I say better, I mean maybe more pricey, um, more luxurious venues maybe. Um, but I'm saying that as an outsider to an extent. Like, would you say that is the case, or
Yeah, I think so. But
because just with
I
the
do
cost of
find,
living and stuff, right? And like the housing market in London versus the north, and
mm,
there is a big difference in people's sort of lifestyles, isn't there, financially? So,
yeah, but I feel like the luxury market is the luxury market and it exists everywhere.
oh yeah,
Like,
of course, yeah,
um, you know, go to like Knutsford, you've got like nice, like the same people living in Knutsford that would be like down in London, and you get people from up there getting married in London as well. So I feel like it's just maybe, yeah, living in London, it's easiest to kind of get your foot in that door. But then I think kind of once you're hitting that market, I think those weddings kind of exist everywhere. And so I think it is possible to hit that living elsewhere, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. No, I mean, I've done weddings like in my backyard that are down the road, and they just happen to have, there's still plenty of people that have money everywhere in the country, I guess.
Mm.
Um, but I'm just like the word I was looking for before, I think was the aesthetical that look.
Mm.
Like I would associate that look with your stuff. It does
Okay.
your works like quite, sort of Londony city vibes, but elegant and classy, and yeah, obviously being in London, getting a lot because I mean there is some nice venues there uh,
Mm.
on your doorstep. So just yeah, I guess I thought maybe that would give you a leg up versus someone that's their local area is Blackpool,
Mm.
for example.
Yeah.
Like you say, until you can get to that point where you kind of, it doesn't matter where you live, you're attracting those big ones all over
Yeah.
the place.
Yeah. I think it was a big help just on like the brand that you put out, like on my Instagram stories, for example, because I always lived quite centrally in London. So I was just, nipping out in Mayfair for a coffee. And I was like, I was very careful to kind of shout about that so that couples looking at my Instagram were like, thought that I was one of them, if
Yeah,
that
yeah,
if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Sure.
They're bougie couples like living in central London, they're young professionals or whatever. And I'm kind of trying to just be like, look, I'm just like you, and you know, we move in the same circles and we like the same things,
Yeah,
even though like
saw you zipping about on your one wheel trying to be cool. The other thing I should have asked already is like what you're shooting on because people love to know that kind of stuff, even though it doesn't really
I
matter.
love this kind of stuff though. When I'm listening to
What
a podcast or something and they don't talk about gear, I'm like, well, that was a waste of time.
what gear do you use, Aaron? What are you shooting on?
All right, two A7S3s and an A7 III. Um, all Sony lenses, so just like the kind of basic, cheap, replaceable lenses that are kind of like they're all Sony, so they're all like consistent colors, and I don't have to worry about trying to match anything.
Yeah.
So I use the Sony 35, the Sony 55, and the Sony 85.
Okay. Cool. And are you on these, or have you got
I
zooms
use
and stuff?
Tascams primarily. Um,
Right, yeah, yeah. I'm segueing a bit, but this is a question that I couldn't maybe should have asked. But having a law degree, have you got like a
hmm.
banging terms and conditions in your contract?
Yeah, but I didn't write it. I
No, but
when I first moved to
is it
London,
tight?
it's sorted. I lived with a contract lawyer the first place I lived in London, and one day I was like, "Oh, can you just like check this clause for me?" And she had a look, and she was like, "This is awful, Aaron." And I was like, "Oh." So she literally just cleared her calendar that day and spent a full 8-hour workday just on my contract. And like so, every clause in there, I like know what it's for, I know what it's doing, I can like justify it,
Yeah,
um, and yeah,
I
feel
feel like
confident
this is
about
an
it.
area that most of us are just like
Mm.
like mine is probably so like flimsy, um, and it's
You
not
see
been
the
updated for
posts,
years. So I'm like, I just try not to worry about it. And a lot of people are like always like worried about this, I think.
you see the posts in the Facebook groups, like, does anyone have a contract they can share with me? Like people who are starting out.
Mm.
Um, but I think, yeah, it needs to be specific to you. It needs to be kind of tailored.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You can't just copy someone else's, and then also like if like you've gone to town to get a really good one, like not really fair that someone should just copy and paste that. Like your website, I guess. Um, so yeah, Kit. What else is there? What do you edit on?
Um, I edit on DaVinci, switched from Premiere during lockdown,
Hmm,
and haven't looked back.
this is another weird little like. Not many people do that. I suppose it makes you quite stand. I mean, not that
What,
it matters to.
DaVinci?
I don't know
I
anyone
feel
that
like
edits on.
I feel like everyone's heading to DaVinci now, like en masse. Like Matt
Oh,
Johnson
really?
did a video a couple of weeks ago about everyone switching to DaVinci. I feel like you're being left behind. I need to get on
I
it.
no, I'm really not bothered. Like if it ain't broke, you know what I mean? Like because this is something that brides and grooms will not even care or know about. So
Mm. See,
that's my
but for me, it
north.
was broke. Like I always felt, I'm going to sound really wanky now, but I always felt like I wanted to do things in my head, but by the time it like got through my hand, through the mouse, through the software that was like really cumbersome, by the time it got to the actual video, it was just too delayed. Like I was having to jump through too many hoops to do what I wanted to do. It wasn't like I
Yeah,
don't know how to
you
describe
want
it. It
it.
wasn't like
You want it to
drawing,
just
It wasn't.
your
Yeah,
computer can't keep up with your brain, and you want to just
yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
Whereas Da
But
Vinci, like it just flies.
yeah, but this leads us quite nicely into. I touched on it at the start. Like one thing that stands out to me about you and your work is the amount of detail and attention you put into like like filmmaking, the thought and choices behind how you compose shots and how you edit things. And I've seen like Instagram stories, and I think brides and grooms must like this. When I've seen an Instagram story of you like today, I'm going to spend 8 hours color matching this clip to this clip, 20 clips that need to match this one for terms of skin tones, and it's like that's your whole day blocked out just to do that.
Mm.
And I think that a level of attention to detail, like, do you get comments from couples on that? And is that a reason why people book you?
It tends the only people that tend to comment on that are couples who've already booked. Um, but I don't know if yeah if it was helping if it helped get the booking.
Because
Um,
I look at that and just think, God, this guy cares so much about his films, and
but at what
care,
cost, Adam? That's the thing.
well,
Like
this is kind of a point that I'm trying to get
this
to,
is the
but
discussion, isn't it?
the discussion, yeah, but like you care that the film is as perfect as it can be to do justice by the couple. It's not like you're doing it just for selfish reasons. Like it comes across like you really do care that they get the very, very best product that you can offer to the to the nth degree. But it's this is why it's interesting because it contrasts with me where
Mm,
I always try my North Star is like if I'm ever stuck with anything, it's like, yeah, but does this matter? Are the couple going to
mm,
notice? Is it good enough? Like in terms, like for example, white balance. Like I've just filmed a video about whether to use auto versus manual white balance. It'll be on the channel at some point. um, and like color grading, it's like, is that something that couples really notice, or am I just
mm.
wasting my time? And it's not that it's a waste of time because obviously that attention to detail is good and you should be doing that for your couples, but it's
But at the
a
same time, it's
balance
a
of
business,
time.
isn't it? And it's
Yeah, and like you obviously spend a lot of time editing to the point where you can only take on, as
mm,
you said,
yeah.
like so many weddings a year because the editing. Whereas I'm the other way, and I try and edit as fast as possible so I can take on
Mm.
loads. And uh, but
See, but it's I,
but we
that,
both still want the best for our couples. So it's just interesting to me.
but that's I think where there's that disconnect. So it's not that it's not that I can only do 15 because I take that long to edit. It's that what I enjoy about this job is the editing. And so that's what I want to spend the most time doing. So I don't want to be, driving 2.5 hours to London every weekend to do 50 weddings a year. Like I'd rather be sat right here clicking and pressing buttons and knowing that like, oh, if I tweak this, she might cry. Whereas if I leave it like one frame short, that might not make her cry. You know, like that's
Yeah,
what really
nice.
interests me and what I really like enjoy about it.
Yeah.
Um, like yeah, I don't really enjoy shooting that much.
I think you hit the nail on the head because my favorite part is the shooting. I love
Mm,
going and shooting weddings, and this, like I say, this is where this is interesting because we both want the same things and we're both quite similar, but it's contrasting at the same time because for the same reasons you really enjoy editing this clip in such a way that it's gonna,
mm,
elicit some sort of reaction from the couple. I
mm.
know that if I love shooting weddings, and I know that if I behave in a certain way on the wedding day, then it's going to make my footage better,
Mm,
and I can get something out of that guest that they're going to love because I've done it in a certain way. And I
mm.
like those weddings where you kind of really get it stuck in with the bridal party, and they make you feel welcome, and you can have a laugh with them, and
Yeah,
you kind of you and the photographer are like in sync, and you start suggesting stuff, and it infinitely makes the footage better, and that's what I get my buzz out of, and then
mm,
I can edit that quite simply knowing that I've kind of got what I needed on the day, sort of thing.
yeah,
So it's not like I'm like, oh, I just don't, I just churn them out, and like you're saying, it's not that you physically can't take on more. You just don't want to. It's a choice
mm,
because you really enjoy editing,
yeah.
which is cool.
I,
Um,
I realize the idea that you're all day on a wedding day, you're just thinking like you use the word behave, and I just find that quite funny. You're like, right, behave like you should, Adam.
no, yeah, no, like, well, no, you're actually bang on. Like, I do have to stop and go. Remember at your wedding. It's like sometimes I'm like, all right, just careful what you're saying. Remember at your wedding. Don't mumble. Don't mumble under your breath when you're recording. You're at a wedding. And like, I'd like to think I've got a good balance between like professionalism and friendliness.
Yeah,
Um, but I think the main one is like, don't mumble. Don't talk when you're recording because you might give them raw footage. Don't don't say anything
see,
you
I
don't.
don't I don't do raw footage, so I'm good. I'm always just like, oh, that person got in the way. It's fine.
Yeah, well, it's always that, isn't it? It's like someone walks across your gut and you just go, "Oh, you dick," and you like you don't mean obviously in context that's fine, and you don't actually mean it. But
Yeah,
if a
but if,
couple
if
were to
they got
see
that
that,
back,
yeah,
yeah.
she's calling my sister a whatever bleed word. It's not very nice.
And
Um,
I seem to have days, maybe like 30% of the time, I have days where like every time I frame up a shot, like during the drinks reception, two people talking, I frame it up, and then the second I hit record, they both just turn away from me, or someone walks in front, or like the canapes arrive, and I'm just like, what is
ah,
going on? And
yeah,
you just like fighting the day. It's just like the day is conspiring against you.
yeah, and you feel like you've got like 30 clips of nothing. I
Yeah,
I, I get
yeah,
that, yeah, because I'm like you. I'll frame it up. It looks nice. It's composed and you don't actually know what the content is. You just know it's framed nice or it's in some sort of nice light, and you're just hoping that something happens.
mm.
um, so do you? I think I've already asked you this, but do you think it's affected your clientele with the way that you edit your films and the attention that you give to that side of things?
um, the word that just popped into my head is discerning. But that's Richard Lang's thing, isn't it? For
I
discerning
don't know.
couples.
I've
But
seen a
I
I've
think,
seen a few people copy that as well.
have you? Well, I think there is something in that though. That and we're going to get a bit controversial now, but in general terms, like generally speaking, people with bigger budgets have higher paying jobs because they're better educated, or well, yeah, because they're better educated, and that results in, I think, a client who is more discerning and
Yeah,
is
more
like,
in tune
yeah,
with what they want.
yeah, well, not even that, but more in tune with just what, again, sounding a bit wanky, but more in tune with like your art. Like
Mm.
they're going to notice those shots that aren't color matched, um, or they're going to notice that, like, you've not faded the audio out gradually, you just kind of let it drop off. The
Oh,
little things like that.
that is such a. I mean, I'm not really precious about this sort of stuff normally, but that is such a bugbear when it just goes from like like a bit of ambient sound, and then it just stops dead.
Mm.
I don't like really when I see that in a video or hear it, I'm like, oh no, what are you doing? Just fade it, man. Yeah, sorry, I'm digressing. Um, yeah, I suppose the appreciation for your art and your time and what you do, would you
Mm.
like you end up getting more of those kind of clients.
Yeah, I
Is that
think
right?
so. Like I've this is a little personal win for me, but um I think I've been going now since June 2020 without any requests for changes, which like even just little, can you add this person in? Like nothing. And I think a big part of that is that yeah, couples are just like we trust what you do, and we kind of
Yeah,
like they're giving me like creative freedom, which is really nice. Um,
yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, yeah, I suppose I can see why through your stuff why you would get those kind of clients that are like have a certain style and appreciate a certain style. And like you say, that does tend to come with the people that have got a bit more budget, say. Um,
mm,
but they're still going to want to see their aunties and the grandmas, aren't they?
mm. Well, I mean, again, it depends on the couple, doesn't it? I had a couple that were
No,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it was
Some
all
couples
couple
just
shots,
want art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But because this is something I've battled with this last year, this last season. In terms of portrait shots of the couple, it's like if it was me, because I'm now engaged, I've been thinking about
Mm.
this a lot. Would I want to
Congratulations, by the
watch?
way.
Thank you. Would I want to watch us slow mo kissing 10 times from different angles, or would I rather have 10 shots of like
Mm.
my friends and family and stuff? And I know that I would rather see my friends and family. So I've
Mm.
just been like, but then because that's how I feel. I think that kind of informs the way the couples I attract because I'm like subconsciously or consciously portraying that, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then that it comes down to the style thing, doesn't it?
Mm. But I mean,
Is
just
it?
on that, I never include any kissing stuff. I hate shots of kissing. And
Oh, okay, that's
so,
cool.
someone called me a prude recently. They're like, well, how can you not like include kissing? But I just like I'll have the first kissing and that's it. Like I just hate
So
kissing in the couple
couple
shoot.
shots will be like them walking hand in hand and
I
like
also kind of don't like walking anymore because
so
it's
what are
all
your couple
anyone does,
shots?
is it?
Are they just
Um,
stood like looking dreamy and stuff?
I just give them little prompts, like little things to do, like trying to guess the number each other's thinking, things like that. Or like, they're usually apart the night before the wedding, aren't they? So I'm like, oh, just tell each other what you had for dinner and just stuff like that. So they're just kind of
Yeah. Sexy
not
French
not thinking
accent.
about me. Huh?
Yeah. Sexy French accent. Tell each other what you had for breakfast.
Well, I mean, that kind of stuff as well. I don't know. I feel like it's about the couple, isn't it? And I work with photographers sometimes who try and do really silly things, and I'm like, this is like the wrong couple for that. Like I know
Yeah.
that this photographer's doing 50 weddings a year and they don't know the couple, whereas I've like spent quite a bit of time getting to know them because I've only got 15 of them. And I'm like, oh, they're going to be hating this. Like,
Yeah, like do the swear word alphabet or something, and you know that some couples are like not really like crude in that way.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
On that point, do you spend a lot of time getting to know your couples then, like Zooms, meetings?
So I always tell couples when they're booking that it's a big part of what I do is getting to know them. But the actual implementation of that I find quite difficult.
Hmm.
So I'm sending emails like 1 year to go, 6 months to go, 3 months to go, and I'm trying to keep in touch that way. And I'm always offering help. And I follow them on Instagram and I
Nice.
try and like interact with the stories and stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm not like, when you listen to these American podcasts and they're like taking them out for dinner or they go into like gigs together and stuff. I'm not doing that stuff.
Does that happen?
Um,
That's
loads in American podcasts talk about this. Like, oh yeah, we were out for dinner with like this couple. We had the greatest time.
yeah. I mean, I've
Like,
I've
yeah, it's too
bumped
much.
into I bumped into a past client in Manchester
Mm.
and like got really drunk with him one time. But he was like I'd already done his wedding at that point. So is this
Yeah.
like they're taking him out before the wedding?
Yeah, they're going
That's
like
that's
it's like
that's a bit
part of
nice.
their business is like taking them out for dinner or like going out for drinks and
Yeah, like I suppose like in different industries, it's pretty normal, isn't it? Like taking golfing and stuff.
mm, yeah, but I don't know.
Maybe I don't know.
It feels over involved to me.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, they're just booking you because they want someone for the wedding and they trust you, and that's that. Like
Yeah, they don't
with the
necessarily want to be
nicest,
best friends.
with the nicest will in the world. Yeah, they don't. And I quite like that a lot of my couples afterwards, after the wedding, and will stay in touch, and we become quite friendly. But
Mm.
I don't know, like if you were to be like, I want to take you out for dinner, and they're like, well, I just wanted your price list, mate. Like, I did want to talk about the whole networking side of what you do, and obviously you're an admin for the UK wedding videographer Facebook group.
Can I just be a pain though? Just before we move off the editing thing.
You're going for a
Um,
week.
no, no,
Oh no, you
just
want to carry? Sorry, carry on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because I feel like we touched on it when I was like, at what cost, like the attention to detail thing. Um, but this is something that I'm always like wrestling with. Is like, I get to a point where I'm like, I could send this out the door and the couple would be ecstatic, they'd love it. But like, I'm going to spend another 2 days like
Yeah,
make sure the audio is perfectly balanced, testing on different TVs. I'm going to like, keep matching these colors and make changes that, yeah, they may not pick up
yeah,
on.
because you'll do stuff like you mentioned that testing it on TVs and things like that is even just that and talking about that. That's stuff that I would never even dream of doing anymore. A, because I don't have the time because I
Mm,
do take on quite a lot, but it's not something I would bother doing even if I had 10 weddings a year. Um, and yeah, I suppose it's interesting, but different practices. Um, but do you feel like do you ever think like am I spending too much? Because
yeah,
that point
yeah.
where you said that point where you said I could send this out the door now and they'd be
Mm,
buzzing off it. Like that's in my head when I'm at that point in edit, I have to tell myself and I've trained myself to go,
mm,
no, it's good enough, send it.
yeah,
So I've learned not to do the extra couple of days that you're talking about.
yeah.
Um, but then like why don't you stop? Why don't you just send it?
I don't know. Something in my kind of disposition. I think that like I always feel. You said earlier your North Star was like, does it matter? I feel like my
Yeah.
North Star is if you're putting your name on something, you've got to be proud of it.
Yeah.
And as noble as that is, it's incredibly time consuming.
Yeah. But if you enjoy it, right? I mean, this is why it just like a never-ending discussion is because,
Mm,
um, you said you want to be proud of your stuff. That's not to say that I don't try and be proud of my
mm,
stuff. It's just different horses
mm,
for courses, I guess, isn't it?
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like we're going around talking about this, and we're never going to get to any kind of like answer because it's just there's no right or wrong.
I'm just trying to convert the wedding industry as a whole to spend
Is that
two
what you
days
want
color
to do?
grading.
Do you feel
Yeah,
like
just get
everyone should be?
everyone to do it, and then
Does it? Um, we're carrying on a bit time wise, but this is good stuff. So I'm going to carry on if you've got time.
yeah, yeah, go for it.
Does it? When do you watch other people's videos and find things that bug you and go, oh, they should if they did just like the colors are off
Yeah.
or
When I'm mentoring people, I always include a film review,
yeah,
and like the number one thing is, well, like we were just talking about the audio dropping off, like that's a big thing. Another big thing is just wonky horizons, like sort your
yeah,
horizons
yeah,
out, people.
yeah,
I can't believe it. Even like the main, down the aisle ceremony shot, which pops up over and over again throughout the film, it's just slightly off.
Dutch tilt, yeah,
And like it's such an easy fix as well, either on the
yeah,
day or in the
yeah.
edit.
All
Like
right,
there's no excuse for that, I don't think.
you might
And
be.
these little things, I think, add up. Like, a couple might not be watching and think like, oh, that angle's a bit off. But I feel like they add up and it just contributes to this overall kind of sloppy
Yeah,
feel
yeah, yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah. Maybe you are converting me a little bit because, like, I say I don't care, but actually, I'm realizing the more things you say, the more because that bothers, like, the sound thing bothers me, The
Mm.
horizons do bother, and I've probably done them myself, but yeah, if I was to look at them, that would bother me.
Mm.
I don't think I'd dare submit a film for a review by you. Probably tear it apart.
Yeah, I'm not good at like, I have to say to people, I'm like, look, you know, the like the shit sandwich thing where you're supposed to like
Mm.
compliment and then criticism, then compliment. I'm not
Yep.
good at that. Like, I'm very,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm very critical, I think.
it's hard
But
that though,
people
isn't
get
it?
their money's worth. So,
There you go. There you go. Maybe I'll give you the chance to plug your mentor in at the end because I've got it in my
I, I,
notes. Like,
I don't think you should though, because I'm just going to be cannibalizing your market
oh yeah,
with
don't worry. As we've literally, as you've said that, I've just got someone's just bought a course. So I've just had an email saying someone's bought my course.
wow.
Literally, as you said that, that's hilarious.
That
Um,
passive income, amazing.
no, but I
Wait, you've got
I
your
feel
emails open while you're talking to me. You're just
yes. Um,
wow.
sorry, you know, eggs in baskets. No, that's not the right phrase. I'm just multitasking.
Spinning
Um,
plates.
don't be so precious. Um, this is, I feel like we've covered this a fair bit in this chat, is that we have very different sort of styles, similar in
Mm.
a lot of ways, but very different in others. And like, you know, if anyone's looking for a mentor, me and you would be totally different types of mentors.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
So
It's true.
I think it's good that people know that there's different options out there for, and the same with like brides and grooms having different clientele and stuff.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
having different videography styles and videographers to look at. You know. I don't feel like it harms to let people know about that stuff, but I've
Well,
because I
it's very gracious of you to let other people plug
no,
their things.
I think you're someone that a lot, you know, anyone starting out could learn a lot from. So, if I didn't like you, I wouldn't say it. But I get people asking me like, you've done like you do YouTube, you do a course, why are you trying to like create competition for yourself? Like what you playing at? And I'm like, well, it's not really like it's just kind of I don't know, I enjoy it and it's like it's not really hindered me in terms of booking. So
No. And there's so many weddings to go around. Like I always say this about this
there's so many
industry. It's
weddings
just
and like I mean, you know, me and you are at a price point now where like anyone starting out, even if we did mentor them and they did everything we said, like
mm,
we're we're still going to be that one step above. I would guess.
I don't know, man.
I sound like a bit of a tit now.
I
Uh,
did a long term mentoring with this girl last year, um, and yeah, like she's got so good, like incredible.
well,
Luckily, she's
yeah.
based in Scotland, so we're safe. We're safe. But
There's
yeah,
there's a lot of people coming through now that compared to when you know
it's scary, isn't it?
I feel
Does it
like
worry you?
yes and no. Like when we started, it's the same sort of time, and at that time there was a lot of people like, oh, you know that you're new and you're just ripping through the industry and come out of nowhere, and like I feel old, and you know I had that people like that saying those things to me.
Mm,
I'm now in that position where I'm like all these new people coming through. I'm like, oh, I feel a bit out of touch here, like,
mm,
and part of me wants to fight it and go, no, I don't need to worry about that. I'm fine. I'll just keep doing me. Um, but then the other part of me is like, no, that's not the attitude because the people when I started out that had that attitude that were like, I'm not doing Instagram, screw that.
yeah, they
Um,
got left behind.
you get left behind, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I need to keep on the pulse, and like you know, a lot of the students that have done my course have come on and doing really well, and there is a lot of people coming into the industry now with the good cameras and doing really good work. That's you know at face value maybe 95% as good as
Yeah,
someone who's been doing it.
indistinguishable.
Yeah, to the kind of untrained eye, I guess.
Mm,
But for like a grand or more cheaper, and it's like,
mm,
um, but you know, I like to, you know, I keep because I see a lot of my students doing this. It's kind of keeping me on my toes in a sense
mm.
because I see them coming through.
Yeah.
and then they're doing all the things that I used to do when I started, but then like the new versions, they're doing the TikToks and they're doing the things that they need to do to market themselves. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and you can see it working, and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that. But then I get up the next day and I go, nah. So I feel like it's keeping me fresh a little bit, but also I'm quite reluctant to do it. I don't know. What are your
I don't know if
thoughts?
you're in the same boat as me with TikTok. Like, I don't know whether to pounce on it or not because I feel like Instagram's constantly evolving and they just keep kind of every time it looks like TikTok's going to be the thing, like Instagram pulls ahead. Um,
Yeah,
and
but the
TikTok's a
answer's
very young.
both, right?
Go on.
Like that's
Or maybe, but who's got time for that to do it well, you know? But I feel like the TikTok audience is very young. Like my brother's 24,
mm,
and he doesn't use TikTok. It's like, it's below him. So I'm thinking like, those people aren't getting married for a long time. The
yeah.
people who
I
get
don't
married
know.
who are our age are, they're still on Instagram. Then,
Oh,
maybe
of
they're
course.
dabbling in TikTok, but they're not like,
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I didn't mean to get on TikTok specifically, um,
it's
but
there it's
it
at the
is.
forefront of my mind a lot at the moment.
But yeah, this whole concept of like, there's now a lot of people coming through, and they're offering it a fair bit cheaper because they're just getting
Mm,
themselves established. But like I say, the actual content is more or less the same. This is my opinion anyway, and it's
mm.
like you say, it's something for people like us that have been doing it a few years to be wary of, I think. Um, but this is where you hope that the discerning couples
Mm.
can see that 5% difference and are willing to pay for it,
I
I
think what
guess.
what really worries me is when I see someone who's a really good editor, because I think because like the cameras are so accessible now, the barrier to entry is so low, and I feel like it's very easy for people to be good at like to be good camera people, like to be good at filming. I
Yeah.
think I think like it's hard to be a really good editor, and like
Mm.
those people stand out. Like if I see someone new who is like, they post a reel or something, it's just like incredibly well edited, or they've got like incredible storytelling or whatever. I'm like, that's when I'm sending it to people like, check this guy out. Like we need to be careful
Yeah.
of this guy. Wow. Um, but yeah, all the people where it's like indistinguishable work, I think the edit is what like
Yeah.
distinguishes it. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. I don't know. It's the end of a long day. I've been editing all day. I'm tired. I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
rambling
but
now.
no, I think you're right, and but it's the hopes that people will spot that, like couples will spot that, like I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. I was going to get onto the networking side and the UK Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
that you're a part of, and I know we've done like you've arranged meetups and things like that. Do you feel like that side of the business, like networking with other videographers and suppliers, is that's been beneficial, or is it something that you just
Mm.
enjoy, or do you think it's actually because I mean you brought a lot of people together. Like we had a night out in Manchester, and I know you do the one in London. And I know you're quite pally
Mm.
with a lot of the people down there. I think pally, like you've got friends.
Yeah.
Um, is that a benefit to your business, or is it just something you enjoy to
Huge,
do?
massively, massively. So the majority of my bookings come from other videographers, and like sometimes people I've never even met, but they just, they've seen me in the group, they've seen me like contributing or whatever, organizing these things. So I get people just recommending me that I've never even met. Like there's one
Yeah.
guy who sent me like 20 grand of work this year who I've never even met. And it's just that's through those things. And then yeah, building relationships with people at these meetups that like I'm going away with a few videographers from the Midlands tomorrow for a few days. And
Ah.
we all refer each other and stuff. Like, yeah, I think it's hugely, hugely beneficial. And those people who close themselves off and they're like, you know, all all about the competitiveness. I think they're doing themselves a huge disservice.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no need for that in this particular industry, is it?
Mm,
Because there is, like you say, plenty of weddings to go around, and actually, when you are booked, because you can only take on so many yourself, you just
mm.
obviously you're going to recommend your friends, aren't you?
Mm.
But that's interesting that most of your work comes from other videographers.
Yeah, I reckon like
There you go.
60%.
And I'm down for a northern meetup. If you
Like
ever
I keep saying,
want to arrange another one.
yeah, well, it gives me an excuse to go up north as well, because obviously I'm
Mm.
from your parts as well. But yeah, it's just busy, busy.
Yeah, it's just like networking something that not just with videographers, but with like, all suppliers. It's something that I've always tried to do because, like you say, it's referrals, isn't it, from photographers
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But no, great that was that been a conscious decision that I want to make friends with videographers because I could get referred.
No, being honest, the reason I started the meetups and stuff was that I moved to London and started my business at the same time. But I had no friends in London. I just moved to the city and didn't know anyone. So I was like, and I wasn't making friends from work like people do. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, it was purely selfish that I just wanted to meet people. And yeah, I made some like lifelong friends from doing that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and ended up getting referrals. That was a secondary benefit.
Well, yeah, it's just a bonus, isn't it? And I knew you were going to say that because obviously it's it's nice to be nice and you can make genuine
Mm.
friends and then bonus you get work from it.
Mm.
Because obviously we networked at this workshop thing and that's how we met. And here we are doing this years later. And like I say, we keep in touch when you tell me about your latest amazing booking. I feel like I don't share enough of mine, but I don't want you to be
You never
disappointed.
do. You never do. In
Well,
my head, I won the race, like the race to 3K. I won, and then you just kind of gave up after. That's how it felt to me.
fuck that guy. Yeah, no, you won that. I'm happy to admit you won that race. Yeah.
So on that point, what to have that conversation again? Where do you think the ceiling is? Because we talked back in
Ooh.
2019 about the ceiling and whether you could get like 20 weddings a year at $3,000.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. I don't think there is one because I wouldn't want to be naive enough to say there was one anymore because I know better because it's like
mm,
at that time it really seemed like there was a consensus that unless you were the top three guys in the country working with planners, you weren't going to get more than like 3K from a general wedding. Whereas we know now that that's pretty common. Like there's loads of weddings for that price and more. So I suppose that the cost of living and everything's pushing stuff. But don't know. I feel like people are investing more in videography overall now. It's like
mm,
something that people are like everyone's like worried about cost of living at the minute. I feel like the expectation of what videography costs is going the right way. It's going up so that
yeah,
everyone can charge a bit more. Um,
yeah,
but for me, it's not so much is there a ceiling of what you can charge on any particular wedding. It's like is there a ceiling of how many weddings you can get for X K. So if you're wanting to charge $5,000, will you realistically get that 30 times a year?
mm,
There's not going to be
yeah,
that might not be possible. But then I suppose the argument would be that you shouldn't price them all the same and think like that.
yeah,
You should be pricing them
yeah.
individually, which I do to an extent, but not like I still have like a set base price.
Mm. Yeah, I say that I price it individually, but really it's mostly the same. But I might just add a bit on if I don't like the venue or whatever.
Yeah, or if you're busy and yeah, and like you
Yeah.
can offer extras and sometimes like I wedding just before Christmas and they literally booked every extra option I offer and it went
Mm,
price went up and it was like yes and it was like the most like intimate smallest wedding ever and they had like
mm.
everything second shooters like I was like I turned up and there was like 20 people there and it was dead just chilled and I was like oh why did you book all this extra stuff but I'm not going to complain it turned out really nice
Yeah.
so.
So I thought maybe there was a ceiling. So last year, so I don't know, it's kind of frowned upon to talk about actual numbers, isn't it? But I like the numbers chat, and I think you like the numbers chat.
Oh
But
yeah.
just bleep it out if you need to. But so I jumped to 5K last year, and I only got 3 bookings between I think June and December. Like I only got 3 bookings in through the door, and I was like starting to get worried this month. You know, the start of the year, and literally the second week of Jan, I quoted someone 3K because I was starting to get worried. And yeah, those January anxieties that we all know, they started to
Yeah.
creep in.
Yeah.
And you know, I had like 8 weddings for the year, and I was getting nervous. And then in the space of 10 days, I booked 5 weddings, averaging like 4.8. And it was like, where these people been the past 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
But I think there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like when you know you might
No,
go
there,
6 months
really
without
isn't.
booking, and suddenly loads of them will come, and you just
Yeah.
can't really predict it.
I think that the risk that you have in those higher prices and doing less weddings is that you can quite easily go, you know, if you're only banking on a dozen bookings all year, that's one booking a month. And you can easily go 3 or 4 months without a single booking.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of riding your luck and hoping that they come in.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing
Yeah.
50 weddings a year and you know, down a couple of bookings, doesn't matter. If you're down a couple of bookings and you're only doing 6 a year, huge. Um, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
I
that's
think
the,
this
I
is
feel like that's the risk game. But in my experience, and what you're saying is that all of a sudden, like buses, they all just come in. Like it always tends to work out, or it has done for me anyway. Like every time
yeah.
I've had those worries, and I've gone, I need to reduce my prices, or like I'm panicking, and then like you say,
Yeah.
the next, like I've just bought my house, and so cash flow is pretty tight. So I was like, oh, and I've took a couple of bookings in January, a couple of deposits, great, covering like a bit. But there's just money flying out for all the stuff we want to do. And then literally a bride booked me like last week, and she was like, "Can I pay in full?" And I was like, "Yes, you can," just for cash flow. And it was just like, wow, like how does this? The
Yeah.
universe is just dropping this stuff in my lap when I need it. Like, how does it even work? But it always tends to work out. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. I think it's like a valuable conversation to have, but you don't want to come across as like you're bragging or whatever. But like I don't know. I was talking to people that I was mentoring, and I was like, I'm really worried about my price right now. I might have to drop my prices because, and I think that is a reality of like charging more is that
Yeah.
you have to be okay with sitting with that anxiety. And I think this is what I was going to say. I find it really interesting the like psychology of pricing from our side of it, not from the client side, but like, what stops someone whose work is indistinguishable from charging 5K? Like, why are they charging 2.5? And I think it's that appetite for risk.
Yeah.
And like how okay you are sitting and holding your nerve and not panicking. Like some people have already got this year booked up and they're half booked up for next year, and
Yeah.
like I couldn't live like that.
Well, yeah, but like those posts that are like, fully booked, 90% booked to 2024. Like I know, people that will put something like that on, and it's like, yeah, but that means nothing. Like, do you do 10 weddings a year, so you've booked 9, or do you do 100 weddings a year? Like, it's not really. There's no context to it. So, and like in the groups, because you'll see this as an admin, like in the Facebook groups where people go, how many weddings have you got for this year? And it's like, oh, I've got 50. And someone will be like, whoa, how have you booked that many already? And it's like, you don't like, and so all of a sudden you like just assume that person's doing really well, but they might only be charging like 500 quid. Like,
Yeah.
and then there might be someone that goes, yeah, I'm like, I've got 3 for the year. And you would just go, oh, well, that guy's struggling, but they're charging 15K each, you know. So, and they only do a handful a year or something. Like, this just, and also everyone's got like, me and you'll take, I'm assuming, a bit longer to edit per film than I do. So your hours put in per wedding is
Yeah,
different.
yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
just
The
like
hourly rate is going to be
the hourly rate's
completely different.
different. It doesn't matter how many weddings you are unless you explain what you're charging. And like, if you're going to make a post saying like, you know, how many weddings have you got booked in this year? The answers need to be like, well, I've got this many and I'm charging this much and I'm putting this much time into each one. Because otherwise it's
Yeah,
just pointless information. It doesn't help.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel like you need to have these conversations to actually help people. Um, and as like someone who's mentoring, you've got to be able to share your prices, and also like why why should, just because you're talking about numbers of 4 or 5K upwards, why should you shy away from it just because you don't want to like sound pretentious or whatever? Like if that's your
Mm.
reality and you're genuinely wanting advice or reassurance, then you know someone who's charging 1,500 quid might be like, "Oh, you're just showing up."
Mm.
It's like, no, I'm genuinely asking for advice because I'm in this boat and I'm wondering if anyone's in the same.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I think you're right. It does need to come with like complete transparency because, like, yeah, I might charge more than someone charging 2 grand, but like some of the people I'm going on this trip with tomorrow charge, like half what I do, but earn more than I do in a year.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's
and
it.
probably work fewer hours for it as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
who's
because
winning there? Like,
I spend like maybe 30 seconds color grading my each wedding.
no, shut up. What?
I do.
Wow. I think
Uh,
I'm about 4 hours is like fastest color grade I could do.
like I can edit a whole highlight film in 4 hours. Like, see you later, done.
I got this to speed up my color grade. I got the Black Magic
Oh,
micro
nice.
panel. Slowed me down endlessly because
Yeah, got to
I
learn
have
it.
so much more granular control. I'm now getting really obsessive. I'm like slowly tweaking stuff.
I just love it. If you're not like, if anyone's still watching at this point, go and check out Aaron's Instagram because he's always sharing stories about how, like, today I'm going to like adjust this guy's nose, like, I don't know, he's got a hair hanging out of his nose, so I'm going to spend all
I
day like
literally removed. I literally masked out a bogey recently. It was like a makeup shot,
masking. Yeah, that's the
and
one.
the bride had a bogey. I obviously didn't show this on my story, but she just had a bogey there. And yeah, I spent like 30 minutes masking out this bogey because I was like, you know what? She might notice that. Like,
See, this is where maybe our styles are different because I probably would have screenshotted that, sent it to the bride, and been like, "Hey, look at this." um, depending on the bride in question, obviously.
mm, mm,
Um, but no, I love it. I love it, and I genuinely enjoy watching your stories because you really put a lot of thought and consideration like behind you. Like you're obviously inspired by actual filmmaking and actual editing
mm.
techniques and stuff. Do you educate yourself in that? Do you like read books? Do you watch films? Like,
I've bought books. I've bought books. Have I read them?
yeah.
No, not really.
Do you watch the
There's
latest
one.
indie film and be like, "Oh yeah, composition"?
When I was in London, me and Toby Slade Johnson, who's handcraft pictures for people who don't know, he used to take me to see the weirdest films.
Yeah,
Um,
well, Toby loves all them sorts of things, doesn't
yeah, but then he'd post a teaser like that weekend that
he?
would be
Inspired by
so
that film.
inspired by the film we'd seen, and it was so clear to see like where he gets his inspiration. But these films were just mental, like ridiculous. I can't say I ever enjoyed one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like films with like The Rock in or something. I'm pretty basic. Um, although I like watching YouTube essays of like, you know, here's a
Mm,
video on this director and why they use this type of
yeah,
shot, and I'm like, oh, that's really
yeah.
interesting actually. And like, I will
Mm,
go, how can I try and do that in a wedding video?
mm. Well, yeah, because you did
Um,
that video like applying cinematic principles.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, which I think
Yeah,
is,
no, I
you know,
watched those.
good source of inspiration that people should actually try and achieve rather than just copying
Yeah.
other wedding videographers. Because we've all fallen into that trap. Um,
See, I'm the other end of that. A lot of people say that, oh, I don't watch other wedding videographers because otherwise everyone's work's the same. I watch other people's work like religiously because I it's probably sounds awful, but yeah, I'm trying to just poach all the best bits from
yeah,
everyone. You know,
yeah.
literally the morning of a wedding, I'm just watching other people's films so I can get like fired up and inspired. So on the day when
Ever
I'm
watch one of
thinking,
mine?
I always watch your BTSs, mate.
Did you actually? This is how
Yeah,
I
before Saturday's
don't want
wedding, I
to.
realized there was one of your BTS that I hadn't watched. It was from like 2021.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a new one like that needs editing. I'm hoping to get out soon.
I really enjoy BTSs. I think everyone does. I think that you should do a lot more of this. I think people love them.
Basically, since I started doing YouTube videos, like if I'd have been putting out one of them every fortnight for the last
Mm.
4 years or whatever, I'd have blown up by now, I reckon. People love it, but it's hard. I've got to pick the weddings and then like find the time to do it, and
You
also
got to
like
locate with the couple as well, presumably.
yeah, well that's it, and also um like just having the headspace on the wedding day to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
like because there's
What do you
been
mean you're so laid back on a wedding day though?
yes I am,
Or is that just an act?
but
Is that just for the
also
YouTube?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it like distracts me, but it just something else. Like there's been times where I've turned up with the intention of doing it and then being like, you know what, I just don't have the headspace for even thinking about doing it today.
Mm.
Or I feel weird because I'm like talking, muttering to myself whilst I'm filming something, and the guests and like, you know, depending on the wedding, like I don't know if this is quite a posh do this. I don't want to look like a
Mm.
weirdo. Um,
Yeah.
I once had I had like an FM transmitter recorder, whatever. Like it was on a frequency wired to my
Right.
camera, and then it like interfered with the PA system in the venue. So like I was chatting away in a bush somewhere, like I'm just shooting through the trees here, and what I'm trying to capture is this. And you and the staff could hear it in the kitchen. And the venue lady was like, just we're about to do speeches. Could you turn off your thing because we've just been listening to you for the last 20 minutes?
I
But
find
no,
I,
thanks,
that's I
thanks for
find that hard to
watching
believe
them.
that you're stressed on a winning day because I
Wouldn't say I
feel
get
a lot of
stressed.
the time
It's
when
just,
I'm
yeah. I mean, I
a
do
lot of
get
the time when I'm
stressed
mentoring
sometimes.
people, a lot of the time when I mentor people, the biggest problem people have is that they're just too panicked on the day. Like in the drink reception, they're just like firing off shots and like they're getting loads, but it's all rubbish because they're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I say to them, I'm like, go and watch Adam Wing's behind the scenes, right? Just so you can see like how laid back you can be at a wedding. Then just dial it back a bit. Just bring it down.
I
Yeah.
was a guest at a wedding this weekend, just gone, and it was great. I was just switched off. I was
Mm.
enjoying the day, and then someone announced speeches, and I crap myself. I was like, I'm not set up. My initial split second thought was, I'm not set up. Oh my god! And it took me a good sort of 10 seconds for my heart to like calm down and be
Yeah.
like, like switch off. It's
Just
okay.
one of those fever dreams come true.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We've all had those. Right. I suppose lastly, where can people find you? I mentioned your mentoring again in case people haven't got it. I know we touched on it, but Arran offers mentoring, so that's that plugged for you because you begged me to plug that.
Thanks,
There
mate.
you go.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Wow.
and
Throw me under the bus.
where can we find you? Are you on Instagram and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Instagram, AK Films, weddings. Just because AK
www
Films
dot
was taken. Yeah, akfilms.co.uk/education for all the
um
mentoring.
yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for your time. I know we've waffled on for a while.
Thanks for having me. Good chat.
It was great, mate. And I look forward to seeing you soon at the next Northwest Drinky
I'll,
Poos.
I'll get something. I'll get something organized.